Hello and welcome to Drax's EV Fleet Academy. My name's Paul George. I'm Commercial Manager in the Drax EV team, and I'll be taking you through today's session. At Drax, we bring our expertise in energy and experience in electric vehicles to help businesses prepare for a successful and enduring electric vehicle future. We have created the EV Fleet Academy to celebrate the launch of My Electric Vehicles, a digital platform that provides fleet managers with all the relevant real-time data they need to manage their electric vehicles, charge points, and energy data in one place. Focusing only on the information that is actually relevant to a fleet manager, My Electric Vehicles details how the fleet's electric vehicles are performing, flags any issues, and offers solutions on how to resolve them. Through an interactive map, fleet managers can see their full fleet of electric vehicles and charge points, including those that are in use or faulty. My Electric Vehicles can also display the expected range of each vehicle in each fleet based on its current charge and identify which charging stations are within range. This allows fleet managers to communicate with their drivers when in transit. We've created these resources to help you electrify your fleet, whether you're a fleet manager, operator, or director. If you have a role or stake in your company's sustainability goals, this course is for you, and we hope you find it useful. The past 18 months have had a huge impact on the transport and energy sectors, presenting us with both challenges and opportunities. So we're approaching these sessions with the broader context in mind, thinking about how these changes affect your role as someone who has a hand in running a business fleet. This is the second of 4 sessions in our EV Fleet Academy, each one covering a different aspect of the process. We're releasing them over the next 2 weeks, and after that they'll be available for you to watch and re-watch at a time that suits you. We've also got plenty of resources on our website to help. You can access these through the link on the screen, which you'll also find through the email you'll receive to tell you the next module has been launched. So please do take a look at those in between the sessions. And finally, we're running a private LinkedIn group for course participants this fortnight, where you can talk to each other, discuss course materials, and ask our experts any questions you may have about fleet electrification and energy. So head over there after you've watched this session and say hi, join the group, and you could be with a chance of winning carbon neutral stay station with the Quiet Site. So here are the 4 sessions at a glance. Number 1, My EV drivers, fasten your seatbelts. Number 2, My EV energy, leading the charge. Number 3, My EV data, chart your progress. And number 4, My EV business, win the boardroom. Today's session is all about how fleet managers can implement and maintain the energy requirements and efficiency of their EV fleets. We're going to look at how to cope with the growing demands of electrification on your business, the areas where the fleet managers can begin exploring in order to understand if their sites are suitable for electrification, and choosing suitable charge points and how to manage them. Optimizing your EV fleet energy consumption will have a positive impact on your business. So we're dedicating this second session to this topic. Here's what we'll cover in today's session. Introduction, the pandemic and demand for renewable energy. Number 2, growing demand, who is leading the way in your business. Number 3, planning is key, starting with a site assessment. Number 4, what type of charge points you might need. And number 5, installation, energy sources, and charge point management. So the energy transition. There are currently 3 megatrends impacting our industry. Number 1, decentralization. This is around moving away from reliance on the national grid, the introduction of more distributed energy resources on the network, and renewables behind the meter, and mass deployment front of meter. Number 2, decarbonisation. The drive for renewable technologies, the electrification of infrastructure, assets, and indeed transport. Number 3, digitisation. Customers require greater visibility and control of energy infrastructure and assets. Running parallel to that, the pandemic has seen demand grow for electric vehicles. When the first lockdown hit, streets and cities were deserted. A study found the reduction in emissions was 7% in 2020. And while that's being reversed quickly and lockdowns aren't a sustainable solution, it did give us all pause for thought about how we can build back greener. This and the announcement to ban ICE vehicles by 2030 has meant more and more people are considering the transition to electric vehicles. Travel patterns have changed completely, and we're yet to feel the full impact of this as it continues to settle down. You may have been using this time to think about your future strategy. As we've discussed in previous sessions, hybrid working looks set to be the norm for many businesses, which means company car usage and leasing agreements will need to be reviewed in light of your new mobility mix and mileage. Adding electric vehicles is another way fleets are changing shape. Demand for electric vehicles presses fleet managers from either side, top down in the form of corporate sustainability goals, and from the bottom up as employers want to improve their own carbon footprint and seek an electric car through a company scheme. This then puts the onus on you to plan how the business can build a fully functional provision for an electrified fleet. Central to that is the energy sources and charge points. As a fleet operator, this may be your first foray into energy management, and there are many aspects to grapple with. There's the site assessment, installation, the power rating of charging units, and learning how to manage the increased load on the local electricity network. Today, we're exploring how this can be achieved. Let's begin by delving into how fleet managers can take the initiative or support stakeholders in decision making. 2020 has taught operational fleets that they need flexibility, and as a result, in response to declining demand and increasing desire to get the most out of every pound, some will have decided to reduce their vehicle numbers or switch to a new blended approach, from operational vehicles assigned to individual drivers to a centrally managed pool of vehicles assessed ad hoc by employees. Businesses have already been selling and leasing back their fleets as they review their requirements post-pandemic and release some cash back into the business. We are now firmly on the road to zero in the UK, with increasing pressure from within and outside of our organisations to enable more electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids into fleets. Meanwhile, other demands on modern fleets, optimising fleet performance and compliance with changing local and national regulations and legislation, for example. And ultimately, in addition to the overriding business objective of continuing to deliver effective, sustainable operational performance. These pressures and demands come from many sources. Every stage of the process, it's important to keep your staff informed of the changes that you're preparing to make. For many employees, there is often a fear of change. And with EVs, there might be a sense of taking a step into the unknown. Therefore, communicating regularly with staff and outlining your plans and the benefits of EVs is critical to ensure a smooth transition. This needs to be a long-term strategic decision for a business that needs to be aligned with operational activities. Planning is key. Begin with a charging infrastructure assessment. Fleet electrification requires a mindset change. The driving range of an EV will in most cases be less than a petrol or diesel-based vehicle, but you can now top it up every time it returns to an office or pit stop with a compatible charge point. When it comes to designing charging infrastructure, the important thing is to remember your business needs. This step gives you the answers to these questions. What type of charge points? How many? Where are you going to locate them? Who's going to be using them? And how will requirements change over time? Electrical site survey. This step will inform what, if any, changes are needed to your on-site infrastructure. My top tip would be don't treat it like a standard procurement exercise. This is and should be a long-term strategic decision that requires CapEx from a business. It will impact business critical assets, vehicles, so it's important that you get it right. The biggest cost will likely be install costs, so reducing any duplication of effort here is absolutely critical. Plan for the long term, even though you are only installing charge points at this stage. An electrical site survey will help you plan your charge point installation. You might have aesthetic and operational preferences for your charge point locations, but the survey will make sure that your installation is practical and efficient. Taking advantage of existing electricity infrastructure, for example, can reduce the costs and risks associated with groundworks and future connections. For example, it can uncover what's under the ground of your site, which is useful information in forward planning. This will be a time to engage your energy or facility stakeholders so you can prepare your site for electrification. It's good to know what impact any site changes would have on your operations and bottom line. Groundworks are inconvenient, so managing them effectively will help to minimise disruption, downtime and expense. Choosing the right vehicles. The next item on the to-do list is a fleet review. Assess the suitability of your drivers to transition to EV. What is their typical business mileage and commute? Could this be performed comfortably in an EV? Could charging facilities be established where they live? If not, what, if any, is the fallback? For those drivers whom an EV is not currently suitable, would a plug-in electric vehicle work instead? You will also need to review your fleet structure and how employee entitlements will alter, particularly if your fleet is based around rental bans. This is where a partner like Drax can assist you. Moving your fleet over to EVs is best completed as existing leases come up for renewal. You will need extra time to plan and implement the switch over to EVs, since there may be longer lead times on EVs. Changing at renewal allows you to deal with the small batches of drivers in one go. There is another benefit of having an initial test group, so you can iron out any issues as the EV rollout accelerates. In the next session, we'll talk about how your telematics data can inform this stage of the process. Here are some areas for consideration when choosing your vehicles. Function. Are these vehicles to get your salespeople from A to B? Are they for transporting goods? If the latter, there's an increasing number of electric vans on offer that can satisfy your operational requirements. Large-scale electric trucks are up and coming, while not so easy to come by at this stage. The biggest of the automobiles are becoming a reality for many manufacturers. Watch this space. Drivability. Much like your ICE model, different EVs will be best suited to different driving environments, from cross-country cruising to city zipping. Form. Looks aren't everything, but if promoting your sustainability credentials to customers and partners, consider your fleet the shop window for your operation. Some businesses capitalise on marketing potential with branded car wraps, which are easy to do post-purchase. Range. How many miles can your EV go before the next charge? Typical ranges can span from 150 to 350 miles per charge, depending on the size of your EV's battery, measured in units of energy, kilowatt hours. Check in on your fleet requirements and average distance per drive to help inform your choice. Your vehicle's battery sizes will also affect the cost per charge. Charging. Just like mobile phones, some cars and chargers have rapid charge capability. These can cut charge times from several hours to just 1 hour or less. Many businesses will find their charge requirements easy to manage. They'll just plug in the vehicles at the end of the business day. For others, rapid charge points might be the only suitable option. If you fall into the latter category, make sure the EVs you choose support rapid charge technology. There are many benefits to engaging a specialist electrification partner. There's plenty they can help you with. For example, consultation, specialist expertise, internal buy-in and employee engagement, and even EV demonstration days. Some do, and they're great for allowing drivers and decision makers to experience an electric vehicle firsthand before committing to anything. And it allows them to ask questions and alleviate any concerns they may have about making the switch. Here are a few questions you can ask them. Do you have a risk management plan? How flexible can you be? How can the service be tailored around my needs? What is included in the price that I pay? What are your current lead times in procuring electric vehicles? How can you support my business growth and continued success? Once you decide on the type of vehicles for your fleet, it's time to move to the next step and understand how you will deploy electric vehicle service equipment across your estate. Your organisation may already have access to dozens of sites across the country and be considering charge points at each. It's easy to overthink and overcomplicate this step. Unless your fleet vehicles regularly travel over 100 miles per day, you may be surprised at how few charge points you actually need. Let the data answer your questions, as it might reveal that only half of your sites see vehicle idle times of more than an hour or two. We've seen cases where fleet managers uncover that the average fleet vehicle only needs to be charged once or twice a week. That's brilliant news, as costs can be reduced by only installing charge points where vehicles retire for the night or for the weekend. In addition to this, it's worth exploring how to tap into existing opportunities too. For example, home-based charge points are an option for vehicles that stay at the employee's residence overnight. That's something you can't really do with a petrol pump. With the right application of your insight, you can make your charging infrastructure and your budget work smarter, not harder. Ideally, chargers should be placed in prominent locations where they can easily be found and help display the organisation's sustainability credentials. However, this must be balanced against install logistics and cost. A key factor of the location is the site's power supply. The closer charge points are, the less digging there needs to be, and subsequently the lower cost of the installation. In terms of the physical position of the charge points, one consideration is that the charging port on many electric cars is on the near or the front of the vehicle, which may impact workplaces where there is a reverse parking policy. It's these small details that need to be thought through as well. An obstacle faced by many organisations is they lease the site of their workplace, meaning they need permission from their landlord before installing charge points on site. That's something that companies should consider in advance. Focus on the positives and opportunities to be gained. Having had a chat with some property lawyers, and a lot of landlord agreements and tenancy agreements do have some clauses regarding improvements to the building. Charge points can easily be seen as improvements, so organisations could approach their landlord and say the work would be improving the building or the site. Here are some items fleet managers should consider when choosing the location of the charge points. Do vehicles return to the same depot at the end of the day, an alternative depot, or do vehicles go home with the driver? Do you have a particular make, model of electric vehicle in mind? How many days per week will the vehicles be in use? And what is the estimated average daily miles? What is the estimated dwell time or available charging time in hours per day? Do you anticipate that the vehicle will charge in a dedicated parking space in the car park? Will vehicles need to charge during the loading-unloading process? Do you expect charging infrastructure to be dedicated to fleet vehicles or shared use, such as employee personal vehicles, site visitors, and/or the general public? Equipped with an understanding of where the charge points need to be placed means that you'll be able to move on to the next step and decide on the type of charge points required. Let's have a quick look at the chargers available, along with the features and benefits of each. Your facilities manager or energy manager can help you in planning here. Also, an effective electrification partner will coordinate requirements and offer a single point of contact with everything from placing orders to managing third-party specialists. It's important to note that when it comes to choosing charge points, faster doesn't always equal better. That's because rapid and fast chargers aren't always the most appropriate or most cost-effective choice. Different organisations will have different needs, and they'll need a range of chargers to meet them. There are two types of EV charging point commonly available, fast and rapid. These are defined by how much power they can discharge, again measured in kilowatts. What are sometimes known as slow charging points are effectively little more than plug sockets and not something we'd ever recommend for fleet use. Number one, rapid chargers, typically DC, direct current. Power output is 50 kilowatt hours and above. Common connectors are CCS and CHAdeMO. Typical charge time depends on the battery size of the EV in question. However, based on hypothetical car with a 64 kilowatt hour battery, you can expect the charge time to be around 2.5 hours. Rapid chargers reduce wait times and prevent journey delays. They're the perfect solution for motorway service stations, shopping centres, if your fleet is always busy or need to cover long distances quickly. However, they do come at a premium cost. Fast chargers, typically AC alternating current. Power output ranges from 7 to 22 kilowatt hour. Common connector is type 2. If most of your EVs are only in use during limited working hours and last a full day on a single charge, then fast charging could be right for you. Charging times tend to be around 10 hours for a 7 kilowatt hour fast charger. For a 22 kilowatt hour charger, the charging time can get down to 2.5 hours. The range is quite wide and more suitable for vehicles that are stationary overnight. The longer charging period shouldn't affect availability, and you'll also benefit from off-peak power prices. It's worth noting, however, that 60% of vehicles on the market will only charge at a speed of 7 kilowatt hours. 30% of vehicles on the market will charge between 7 and 11 kilowatt hours, and around 10% will charge between 11 kilowatt hours and 22 kilowatt hours. So the majority of vehicles wouldn't enjoy a charge of more than 7 kilowatt hours on AC charging. What's better for energy transfer? It's key that fleet managers keep in mind these two aspects and work around your organisation's requirements. An EV with a 7 kilowatt hour onboard charger will only charge at 7 kilowatt hours if plugged into a 22 kilowatt hour AC charge point, which might make it unnecessary to invest in those charging points in the first place. One other benefit of fast charging is that it can help conserve your EV battery lives too, as they keep temperatures lower through a less rapid energy transfer. If your chargers are using AC, then the charging speed also depends on the power rating of each of your vehicle's onboard chargers, as well as the power output of the charge point itself. So to be sure to check these figures to get a good estimation about the charging time you can expect from your fleet. That's why at Drax we help by evaluating each customer's charging requirements based on the vehicles in their fleet to determine the maximum capability of their vehicles. This helps us recommend the right AC fast charge points for them. It goes without saying that each charge point will have to be installed by skilled and qualified technicians, along with infrastructure that supports it. The government's workplace charging scheme. This is worth mentioning here too, as it can make now a better time than ever to begin your journey towards electrification. This is a grant that businesses can use to reduce the cost of installing electric vehicle charge points for their staff. This is in addition to the charge point installation grants for employees' homes that I've discussed in a previous session. Let's run through a few bullet points regarding the workplace charging scheme and how it can help fleet managers. The workplace charging scheme grant is capped at £350 per charge point socket, up to 40 sockets per applicant business. It's available to any business, charity or public authority with some conditions. The grant is provided by the Government Office for Zero Emission Vehicles, or OZEV. The workplace charging scheme reduces the cost of a new workplace charging station single socket, capped at £350 per socket. You can only claim the workplace charging scheme for new charge points, which will be installed after the date the voucher is issued. You must have sufficient off-street parking. While you do not need to currently have electric vehicles as part of your fleet, you will need to express an existing or future need for the business. You must have the charging station installed by an OZEV-approved workplace charging station installer. Drax is one such provider, for example, so it's important you ask that of your installing partner. You can find out if your organisation is eligible by completing the form on gov.uk. Charge point installation. For end users of electric vehicles, charging is still perceived as the biggest challenge to electrification. When you take in the options into consideration, a suitable, visible and convenient on-site provision for charging is important in order to minimise range anxiety for early adopters and gain positive traction with the rest of the business. At Drax, we have plenty of insight into charge point data and suitability. It could well be easier and more viable financially to install a greater number of fast chargers, typically 7 kilowatt hour, capable of recharging a car in 6 to 8 hours. This would be instead of a smaller number of rapid chargers at say 43 kilowatt hours. As the amount of EVs in your fleet increases, you can of course begin introducing rapid and ultra rapid charge points. The rapid charger can get an EV's battery up to 50% charge in just 15 minutes. So you'll be avoiding awkward situations where people left the vehicle on charge overnight only to return and find that the battery is flat. This is particularly important for fleets where the vehicles are being pooled and different people drive the same vehicle. We've already covered how the ideal quantity of charge points hinges on detailed analysis of your vehicle mileage. It's worth noting that the newer generations of EVs now have a range of 200 miles and would only need to be charged weekly if they are used for daily routes of up to 40 miles. In that scenario, one charger could easily serve 5 vehicles. The capacity of the national grid is limited. So fleets will require smart charging solutions that stagger the time when vehicles are actually drawing power, even if they are all plugged in simultaneously. The total number of EVs is only going to increase, and that's why at Drax we work to supply fleet managers and organisations with the energy required to run their fleets. When it comes to optimising charging times, recharging batteries off-peak, low tariff times can save as much as 2/3 of EV fuel costs. There are further revenue-raising opportunities in the pipeline, from vehicle-to-grid technology, where EVs store excess power and use it to resupply either the local buildings or national grid at peak times. However, for this to become a reality, commercial fleets may have to commit to having their vehicles plugged in at certain times of the day, which may not be operationally possible. It's a good consideration for future-proofing your business. With your charge points installed, it will be time to focus on the next step, managing the charge points in a way that's efficient for the business. We want to make sure drivers are happy and able to use the charge points without issues, and that you're able to collect the usage data and manage accordingly. For example, taking steps to clear the potential bottlenecks. We've talked about how organisations can reach out and work with a partner when it comes to installing the charge points. Another item on the agenda is who will be managing these charge points once they're installed. Organisations can take on the management of the charge points themselves or use a charge point provider for this service. Using your own internal resource to manage the charge points means you get the cost benefit directly, but you also have the outlay of any spares or maintenance. That's not to say the situation has to be permanent. You can appoint an internal energy manager which is qualified for the job, or it can be someone who manages your relationship with the charge point provider. In some cases, organisations get a charge point operator to install the system and then join their scheme. This is often the preferred solution if the organisation does not have the expertise in-house. It takes some of the risk away because the organisation is not managing or maintaining the charge points itself, and they can focus on their core business and what the business does best. If you end up securing a partnership of this nature, you need to do a fair amount of due diligence and have conversations with the charge point supplier. Aim to understand the specific details about the service level agreements involved, and most importantly, how long it will take them to fix any outages. EV charging will directly impact your supply contract and demand of power on your building and increase the cost for a business. Therefore, the EV charging aspect and the energy supplier element are intrinsically linked. At Drax, our solution is flexible to work with any client, regardless of their energy supplier. However, there are greater benefits for our clients if their energy supplier is with us at Drax, as we can be more prescriptive, we can have access to energy data and dynamic live pricing to give tailored and data-driven recommendations. It brings all the components of the energy puzzle together for a clearer picture. When it comes to managing how your team uses the charge points and how long, there are different solutions. Some are quite flexible, such as groups on WhatsApp. Others can be more robust and set up through Microsoft Teams. It all depends on your organisation's profile. In some car parks, we've seen drivers place small note cards with their phone number and a message for people to call them when the EV finished charging so it can be moved. While this approach certainly works, you'll probably want to move your organisation to something more digital and opt for an online-based solution with shared calendars and notifications, or splitting the charging times into morning and afternoon shifts for your staff. This concludes our session. We've covered all the aspects of planning and implementing your on-site charging infrastructure, and I hope you now feel more confident and informed to tackle this aspect of your fleet electrification journey. Join us for our third session of Drax's EV Fleet Academy series, My EV Data, Charting Your Progress, which will launch on Wednesday. We've covered fleet electrification from a people and infrastructure and energy perspective in our first two sessions. In our third, we will run through how data can play a crucial role in your journey, what to measure, when and who needs to see it. You'll get an email first thing with details on how to access the new material. If you'd like Drax to be your chosen partner to consult on your business's journey, then get in touch with us by following the link shown on the screen. If you have any questions for us on the course materials or any burning questions for other fleet operators and energy managers, head on over to the LinkedIn group where the discussion will continue. The group will stay open for 2 weeks after the final session, and we'll be announcing the winner of our competition to win a £1,200 quiet site gift voucher, an award-winning carbon neutral holiday destination in the Lake District. You'll be able to re-watch any of these sessions and access the supporting resources using that link too. Thank you very much for listening. See you on the next session.